football and other efforts. It started echoing in my ear. That kind of threw me off.
I can't hear anything in mine.
Maybe you need to turn yours on because I can hear you. And
you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't hear me.
You sure you got your volume and your Mac pack turned up?
I'm turning my volume cannot go any higher.
Oh, are you sure you didn't just turn it off?
Maybe.
You're not even looking at it. How would you know?
I'm just turning this knob.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
So football and other F words, Zach Lyons. You can listen to Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. all throughout the week. Then we got football and other F words. Obviously, you're listening to it, but we will be at the Senior Bowl. I will be at the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Stoney will be there. He'll be my guest all week, every day, 6 p.m., right after 3HL. We will be broadcasting live, answering your questions, previewing the Senior Bowl, all that jazz.
There we go.
There you go. Now you can hear. Stoney Keeley, at Stoney Keeley on Twitter. Sobros Network. You have Stacking the Inbox. You have Hot Read Podcast.
Yeah.
But I think the question on everybody's mind right now is, what were your main takeaways from the Hula Bowl?
I was hoping you would give me like the first 15 minutes of this show to rant because I didn't get to watch the Hula Bowl, Zach. I did my due diligence. I figured out where this thing was going to be streaming.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, Google says it's Paramount Plus. It's going to be on CBS Sports Network. I start checking my program guide. They've got a replay of Army-Navy scheduled for 11 a.m. Central on Saturday. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do here? Then I dig into it, and I realize it's only playing in certain markets. They tweet out some sketchy link to some website I've never heard of. Probably going to take down my MacBook, but I'm like, whatever.
Whatever it takes to get that Hula Bowl.
To get the Hula Bowl in. Then that's not working. It's not working. And so I'm like, all right, well, they've got a replay of it airing at 2 a.m. Monday morning. So I'm going to DVR that, and then I'm going to watch it Monday night, and I'm going to catch up on everything. I pull up the recording Monday night. I sit down. I got a cold beer. I got my my draft notebook for those watching live on YouTube now, and I'm ready to go. And I press play on this recording, and lo and behold, Army-Navy pops up. So I'm like, okay, trying not to lose my shit. Go upstairs. I read people are saying, well, it's available on Fubo or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. Some app. It's like $100 a month. And I'm like, whatever. I'm going to get the free trial, and I'll just cancel after I watch the Hula Bowl. Sure enough, I load the app. There's the Hula Bowl.
Okay.
Like, all right, yeah, we got this. I press play on this app, and it starts playing Army-Navy again. And at this point, I feel like I'm in some sort of sick, cruel, twisted nightmare of somebody. So
did you cancel the Fubo subscription?
I did immediately.
Okay, just making
immediately.
Sure.
Yeah, when I realized I wasn't going to get to watch the Hula Bowl,
yeah,
I just canceled it, and I sent off some angry tweets. And then I read some articles that apparently the future of the Hula Bowl is kind of uncertain because of all this.
Oh.
It's kind of on shaky ground, and I find it hard to feel sorry for them, quite frankly, because
fuck those kids.
I'm trying to promote your game,
right,
and take it to a wider audience.
You're just trying to get some Seth Hennigan.
I am, yeah. And
film.
You know what? Like, man, you look at last year. They had Tyrone Tracy, they had Travis Glover, they had Jalen Coker. All of those guys parlayed the Hula Bowl weekend into invites to either the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl.
All got drafted.
Tyrone Tracy had a pretty damn good rookie season.
Jalen Coker?
Jalen Coker. Travis Glover was playing left guard in the Packers playoff game on Saturday.
Well, they lost, so let's not.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up. That doesn't help my point.
Do we know what his stats were?
I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna let you gab for a little bit while I check some Travis Glover stats here.
Hula Bowl. I don't get it how everybody on the planet in 2025 can work a live stream and just blast it out there on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Why they can't figure it out is beyond me.
I'm laughing. So if you go back to Stacking the Inbox, and if you're not a subscriber, go to stackingtheinbox.com.
We have like a 4-hour film study.
We have a massive film study on Travis Glover. We break down a whole game, and it was really more that Travis Glover was on your list, and we went and wanted to break down what you look for on tape, how to watch tape, all that kind of stuff. Do you want to know what his pass blocking grade was according to PFF for what it's worth?
Yes, I would love it.
1.8.
Well, you know what they say about PFF grades. No, you know what the issue was?
Why is it a 1.8?
Well,
he didn't allow any sacks, no hits, no pressures whatsoever. It has 100 pass blocking efficiency.
He's a natural tackle. He's playing.
I just don't understand.
Position.
Like, this is the problem with PFF grades. Okay, so just so you guys know, this is just the pass blocking grade. I bet the 3 penalties got him.
Yeah.
So he had 3 penalties. Okay, but other than that, he hasn't allowed in 17 snaps. Didn't allow a sack. Didn't allow a hit. Didn't allow a hurry.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, let's not weigh those penalties that much.
Can we factor in the fact that he came into the game against the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs?
Right.
I mean, cut him some slack. The larger point here being the Hula Bowl is important. There's valuable information that I can glean and pass on to our subscribers, our listeners, our viewers that I missed out on now. And I don't know what I'm going to have to do, Zach, to get a hold of that Hula Bowl tape. I'm emailing people. I'm DMing people on Twitter. Like, can you hook me up? I'm like an addict over here.
Craig Tordovich on Facebook says, the guys are trash. I don't know if he's talking about us, talking about the Hula Bowl players. I don't know, but he's on Facebook, so what does that matter? Got to be on YouTube or Twitter at this point. Like, why are we still on Facebook?
Yeah,
Craig?
That's what. Bet he's old.
Yeah. We got to be careful. We know my dad uses Facebook to watch the show.
Gotcha. Well,
yeah.
My bad.
Your
father's a king, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
That doesn't apply to kings.
Yeah. Okay. So, lots happened since the last time we've been here. It feels like every week I age 3 years.
I know, man. You know, this has felt like a breakup. Honestly, we sat here on these couches. I almost called them casting couches.
Well, you just did anyway. So.
We sat here. Well, because you said it wasn't bad. We can say it.
We know that Craig on Facebook probably doesn't know what that means. He's too old.
We sat on these 2 couches last week, and we just vented about the whole process. Now, I feel like I'm at the point where, okay, I've gotten up off the couch. I've put down the tub of ice cream. I've shed all the tears I'm going to shed. I'm ready to get back out and join civilization again. I'm ready to get back out into the world.
You're ready to love again.
I'm ready to love again.
Yeah, and that love could come in the form of John Eric Sullivan as early as, I guess this is Thursday night, so it could be as early as tomorrow because, I mean, this whole thing kind of feels like a sham. I don't really know where to begin. It's been a drama-filled week just in multiple different ways. I guess from this. And let's not get into, I mean, if anybody wants to hear opinions on questions and answers and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you got a whole radio week filled with that kind of crap. So I want to do something a little bit different.
All right.
Did you get anything out of the Rand Carthon interview from Ramon, Kayla, and Will where you're just like, okay, that's interesting? Like that little tidbit, what is like, a lot of people focused in on the quarterback stuff.
Yeah.
And thought that was very interesting. But was there something like that, even if it is that, was there something like that where you're just like, oh, ooh, I see what you did there?
I mean, he took Drake's side in the beef. That was pretty unforgivable.
Well, I do have to agree. I mean, like, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because I thought for sure, if anything, he'd be a Kendrick guy. Because, I mean, smart people are Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that he's not smart. I'm just saying, like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Drake lost. At least lie to the people. Don't go on the radio and say that you're a Drake fan. And, like, what was it, like a few hours later or maybe even a couple of days later, it comes out that he's trying to sue the record label that released it because it caused him undue harm. Like, bro. That is not the side to be on.
Not a good look. I mean, to be honest, Zach, I'm not taking a shot at the interview when I say this. If there was something, I don't remember it. And again, it's not because of the interview. It's because of my brain operating at a level where 24 hours go by. Everything I've learned the previous 24 hours is gone unless I've written it down. and can draw back to it. So that's why I take all these notes when I'm watching prospects, because I gotta stay sharp.
Right.
The interview, there were a couple of things that I found pretty interesting. I thought if I'm not mistaken, his wholehearted defense of Brian Callahan, I felt like was pretty telling.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Well, I mean, it is interesting, though, right? Because what did we hear the prior week? We heard that, hey, Chad Brinker wasn't that sold on Brian Callahan.
He might not be safe still.
Yeah. And then you hear the full support there. And listen, maybe it's just public relations jibber jabber, right?
Yeah.
Like,
what if they still fired Brian Callahan at this point?
Well, I mean, now he's in the interviews. Isn't that awful?
They're going to have him interview the GMs.
Yeah,
and then
that's going to fire him next year.
In the same meeting, John Eric Sullivan's just going to stand up and say, thank you for your services.
Good luck in your future endeavors.
Good luck in your future endeavors, yeah.
He's gonna John Laurinaitis him.
Yeah. No, but, and to be, like, the human side of things.
Yeah.
I do think it was kind of nice for us fans to see Rand looking pretty healthy and good spirits and kind of, I don't want to say, it's just the vibes felt okay. And like after the week that was, and some of the terrible things that were insinuated about him, like for him to be able to get in front of a camera, thank the people of Nashville, thank the fans that supported him. There was a part of me that was like, man, like good for you for that.
See, that's where I think a lot of people think we get along really well because we're close to the same and all that stuff. That's where I think our biggest difference is, because you're like the nicest fucking guy in the world. You would give the shirt off your back to anybody in the winter. Now you have a second human-made shirt.
It's easy for me because I'm covered in fur.
You're just hairy all over.
Yeah.
But like that's how you see you. And my parents and my wife both complain about this as well. I'm not a sentimental person.
Yeah.
Like Derrick Henry, as soon as he's off the Tennessee Titans, I've rooted for him through Alabama, through Tennessee, through the good, the bad, whatever. I don't want him to fucking win a Super Bowl because he plays for the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm just not a sentimental person. And so I understand those that probably exhibit way more empathy than I do. And I understand that. Got a lot out of that. Got a lot of what you're saying. For me, that's just like in one ear, out the other. And maybe that's unfair to Rand because, I mean, fans should feel grateful. And like, I understand all that kind of stuff. And this is a rare opportunity to have that final say or that final word. I just felt like he didn't use the opportunity very well. And that's kind of where I sided, is like, there was no, for him, it was either all lovey-dovey or I'm not going to say anything of substance. There was no middle ground. There could be a middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be. And I don't think anybody really went in expecting scorched earth. At least I didn't.
I tried to curb that a little bit because I know we share a group chat with some people that were like, oh man, he's going to go scorched earth.
I was like, no.
And I got in there and I was like, I wouldn't be expecting scorched earth, guys.
They would be promoting it in a different way if it was going to be that kind of interview, right?
For sure.
I mean, they would be like, it would have stuff in there. You must do it. You have to do it.
He's going to kill somebody.
Maybe put fire in the background or something. Like they would do something like that. And they didn't do it. They just said, hey, Rand Carthon's going to be on. And then, of course, we all retweeted it and everything like that. But I felt like he could have done himself, and that's where I'm at, like he could have done himself some service by finding that middle ground. It's like, again, like the Tennessee Titans. They did themselves a disservice going scorched earth on Rand Carthon.
Yeah.
Smear campaign. Let's just call it like it is. It is a smear campaign. Hit pieces, one after the other. Stuff that you didn't have to do. The fans were not craving all the stuff that they did. But he went the complete opposite. And so, like, I don't understand why people can't find a middle ground. And that goes for the Tennessee Titans. And now, we brought this up since he's been fired a couple of times on Cover 2, but we brought it up again today. Chad Brinker seems a little cowardly for not getting up here and talking, and nobody in the media besides a few people are holding him accountable.
He's busy grinding tape. football guy.
I guess. I
All
mean,
ball,
but
all
like,
day.
I mean, it's been what, a week and a half since Rand's been fired, and we haven't heard him except for the little written pieces.
He's watching tape of the Buccaneers, Packers, Bills, Chiefs, all the GM candidates.
He can't break away for 30 minutes.
No, can't do it. Can't do it. Got a football team to run.
As far because we've had a few people, or Eddie at least, and Eddie is a pretty good, loyal listener, but he was questioning about the Callahan thing, and they immediately put Callahan on the hot seat. That kind of, and I've seen TD was on Buck's show, 615 Sessions, the A to Z podcast. He didn't come right out and said it, but he said it. Like, you get what I'm saying about the Callahan Brinker issue and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's stuff there. It's not like right in your face, but there's stuff there. And Thomas A. Swan, he's been a big believer that there has been no smear campaign against Rand Carthon. And I don't know if he just didn't read any of these statements that have been in ESPN or on Titans.com or on PK.com. But you don't have to go out of your way to say the stuff that they did.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to do that.
No.
Even the stuff like, well, we want a guy that's all football all day long. Okay, so did you have to say it like that? Did you have to do it? No, they went overboard.
Yeah.
Let's stop being naive. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it happens all across the NFL, right? You hear of what about when a player is going through the draft process and they'll say, well, he's not really, they throw out some stuff that may be true, right? They throw out stuff that may be true, but they don't need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he says they is your assumption. Dude, listen to Chad Brinker's words, Thomas. Okay? If you don't like what I'm saying, don't listen. Because this is just going to fucking piss me off that you're being naive. He literally said it. Like, Chad Brinker said, all ball all day, which means that they think that Rand Carthon was not all ball all day.
That is certainly the presumption.
That whole 3 paragraphs that he said right there, sitting next to Burke Nihill, talking to Jim Wyatt, is all stuff that they felt that Rand Carthon could not live up to. They're not directly saying it, but they're saying it.
Yeah.
Let's get the heads out of the ass, okay? I mean, it drives me nuts.
Yeah,
and Thomas is like, calm down. No, it's my show.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like that was a pretty pointed statement when it came out. That was one of my first takeaways.
He's
how
on the
worded
plane sleeping thing. Thomas is obviously on the plane sleeping thing, and he doesn't understand that we're not talking about the plane sleeping thing. We're talking about the fucking statement that he said on Titans.com.
I'm not seeing these comments. Where are the comments coming through?
Oh, Twitter. If you're not on, you're just on YouTube.
I'm in YouTube with all the cool
I got
people.
the little restream chat up on my end.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. LT3 gets it right. He's basically subtweeting Rand Carthon. That's how you need to look at it.
Yeah.
That's how everybody else looks at it, except for Thomas.
Oh, that's okay. There's still time for Thomas.
There's still time for Thomas.
There's still time for Thomas.
So I look at it this way. When you hear the stuff that TD says on both the 615 sessions and over on other radio shows, I guess just say, I don't know what I can legally say or will not say. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Yeah. But when you hear TD go around, it's not just one person. It is also a well-respected member of the media. If you listen to what people say, Braden always said, I think, I feel, I know. When you hear those words, when it's in the context of certain situations, that's what it is. And what was interesting is that PK said he disputed that report that Brinker was in, but he used what he was told 3 weeks before the season even ended. Well, let me tell you something, dude. Stuff has changed since 3 weeks before the season.
It feels like we're in a different spot now.
We're in a different time zone.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. And you know what they're going to hear from inside the building? Oh, well, that's not true. That's not true. We love Brian because they were forced to keep Brian Callahan.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. they immediately turned around and put his ass on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we just have to look at their words as they put them out in public.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel like we're already seeing the memes like the Patriots are going to beat the Titans and Brian Callahan's not going to be
Right.
the head coach after the game. That's going to be the ticket to fire him. Like, it's like the worst kept secret in Nashville right now is that he's on the hot seat.
He's a lame duck.
He's got to win.
And that sucks for him.
It does suck because, like, man, I'm telling you, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole again because I feel like I do it every week. But, like, watching the film, watching the way that players played for him, I'm telling you, like, there's something there with this guy. You hear people around the league talk about Brian Callahan, people that have worked with him, coached alongside him, players that have played for him.
Hear him talk about
You hear him talk like it is like there's a sharp guy here that guys want to play for, and the scheme, guys getting open, the marriage of the run blocking concepts and the pass concepts is really interesting stuff. I think there is stuff that he's doing that you don't see in any one given playbook. And if you give the guy time and if you build a good roster for him, I think he could be a really good coach for a long time. And that is what is so frustrating about all this, is that it kind of feels like wanting change for change's sake to get everybody on the same timeline. And I get that, but at the end of the day, don't you just want like a smart football coach? Shouldn't your GM be able to work with that? Like, what are we doing here? But I'm kind of with you in that, like, if this is the case, if there's already dysfunction there, where he is a lame duck,
this fucking whole franchise is it might as well be the Tennessee dysfunction juggler.
You should have
even say it.
You should have just given him the axe,
right?
And that's what's.
But that's where you have this continued mess, guys. Why is it so hard to believe that one person wanted someone fired and Amy said, no, we're not going to fire him. We're going to do it this way?
Maybe Amy's listening to Football and Other F Words.
I don't know why that would be hard to believe because we fucking have already seen it. Like, this is not some stretch of the imagination. We have seen this play out.
Yeah.
Mike Vrabel didn't express explicitly, I do not want Rand Carthon.
Yeah.
I want Ryan Cowden. And what did she do? She went around and did what she wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, she's watching Football and Other F Words. She's listening to us. She's like, guys, we can't fucking fire Brian Callahan. Listen to this.
Even though we've said fire one, fire all.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that big of a stretch to really look at the history of this team and how it's kind of worked and put all the pieces together. And sometimes the simplest explanation, that is when you have a dysfunctional owner and erratic ownership, this is how it works.
I said I was ready to move on and get back into the
I got
world.
you all riled up.
And here we are.
But
I still clearly have some feelings to process.
You hear TD. You hear Buck. You've heard Blaine. You've heard the morning show. You've heard almost every radio station say,
yeah,
those people went overboard.
Yeah.
Which
is a fair thing to say.
Yes.
You know, it's not like we're saying, oh, they should have kept Rand Carthon because of all this. It's
personally,
like,
I think we both kind of agree that they all should get another year.
I did,
right.
Yeah. But at the same time,
it's not that hard of a leap to make. Oh, well, you fired the general manager. Well, they just only won 9 games while he was here, regardless of everything else. Okay, boom.
But I also feel like you could have just said we didn't think he was doing a good enough job.
Yeah. But they just went so overboard.
they're they're gonna hate us for firing the GM after a 3-win season. We better make sure.
There's some stuff that's floated out there. I believe is on 615 sessions with TD, and it came out Saturday, so I just listened to it today. I listened to it on my way home, and he basically said he alluded that the reason. He alluded stadium funding, the NFL. He alluded to all this stuff and to why some of these things went down the way they did and how they went down. That's what he alluded to. You know, but like if you felt like the NFL felt that after he got fired, they needed to do an investigation into what this general manager position was supposed to be because of their words. What they put out in public raised some eyebrows.
Well,
so I just want to say real quick, not everything's on the up and up, and they felt that here's what I think. I think the Tennessee Titans went with a preemptive strike to make it seem so bad and so terrible of a job they did that they had no choice.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how deep you want to get into all that stuff.
No, I will just say this. I just want to say this. This could all end up working.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, and that's the thing. Like,
and that's why, and this also goes back to the point where, like, Rand Carthon really didn't make sense. He didn't really do himself a lot of favors, in my eyes, personally. If I'm looking at it from an objective, public relations, I'm your agent. Did you help yourself in that interview? Not that saying that he should have taken that interview, but he didn't take advantage of the interview from a strategic standpoint is how I would look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I might have gone in there with all my notebooks, been like, no, look at all the film that I'm watching. Look at all the work that I do. I might have slandered some names. I'm not going to lie. But he took the high road.
Well, he couldn't, obviously, because of NDAs and stuff. And, heck, you want to get that money, right? Like, you get that money.
I don't know.
Okay. So we had someone ask, and I'm sorry, I think it was LT3 maybe asked in the chat, because now we're going to have the head coach, the GM, and the president of football operations. Is there somewhere out there like that out in the NFL? And so not in the way that this is currently constructed. So I would say that the closest is the Lyons, but we don't really know what Rod Wood actually does, and we don't really know what Brad Holmes actually does. So when I say that is, we know that Brad Holmes is GM, and we know that president of football operations and business operations, just I guess team president at that point, is Rod Wood. Usually in the team bios, on the team websites, they say, okay, well, Brad Holmes is general manager of the Detroit Lions. He got promoted to this position, blah, 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 blah. And he does this, and this, right? They usually put something like that in there. They list out everything that he oversees and does. They don't do that. The only thing they put in there is that he answers to Sheila Ford Hamp and Rod Wood.
Okay.
Go to Rod Wood's thing, and it kind of puts up in there, you know, Rod Wood is the president of football and business operations. That's about it. So we don't really know what that. A lot of people in Titans, Travis brings this up, and I know a lot of people have brought this up too, is the Rams. Les Snead's pretty much the dude there. Now, there are other dudes that maybe handle the salary cap or handle this, but it is the Les Snead, Sean McVay show. It's not really, I think Kevin Demoff is over there. I can't remember. I don't remember what title he is, but there's also another guy. It's Les Snead. You know who the decision. When you're calling for a trade, you know it's Les Snead. Yeah. When there's roster control or this and that, there's likely Sean McVay. So, like, you know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Here, supposedly, allegedly, according to Charles Robinson, it was everybody knew last year or this 2024 offseason that it was Chad Brinker. That's who you call. That's who you go see. Even though Rand Carthon was the GM. Kind of feels like Rand Carthon in both stops with Vrabel and with Brinker as president was just kind of there.
That's the narrative.
But the way, not in a bad way, by the way. I don't not that he was doing it. It sounds like he was completely neutered both years.
Yeah.
Which then goes back to what kind of TD was kind of alluding to. So, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure even the Packers are like that because Curtis says that too, and I could maybe get on board with it. But again, it's it's Goody,
and
then it's Matt LaFleur. It's not when you look at it this way. Whenever you heard the rumors from like Jeremy Fowler or Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, it was always Brian Callahan ran Carthon, Chad Brinker.
Yes, that was the
and
message.
this year, it may just be Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker mentioned, or it may be all three. I can't really think of a team that has had all three mentioned.
I can't either, which makes me wonder, like, this is going to be, what is this, supposedly, like, year 2, I guess, of a triumvirate atop the organization?
Yeah.
But if it's not, nobody else is really doing it. It seemed to have collaboration, seemed to have disastrous effect in 2024, at least for Rand Carthon it did.
Right.
What is the hope for this working out now? I mean, what I'm essentially getting at is, like, why even hire a GM? Why not just make Chad Brinker the GM if this is the power dynamic anyway?
I mean, technically he is the GM, but I just really can't answer it because everybody's like, well, he doesn't want any of the blowback on him. Well, why wouldn't he? Like, just because he's not GM, but he's president, he's the final say on everything. He's the one who hired the GM.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, where does that stop?
Yeah, I mean, we act like he can just disappear into the shadows and not be held accountable for this, when now we know it's been clearly defined he's the top of the food chain here.
Right.
So if stuff starts going sideways, why would he not be held accountable for those things?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's weird.
He will be. I got a question from Ed Henry. Goes, okay, Zach, why do you feel Steve Underwood, who's a lawyer, would be a better buffer than Brinker, a football guy? Yeah, Underwood was really good, but he was around for forever. Well, because Steve Underwood always told it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Brinker, hasn't been in his football as long as Steve Underwood has. Steve Underwood has been around the Adams family in football since 1991.
Whew.
Chad Brinker's been around football since 2009.
Yeah.
So discounting really Steve Underwood, football guy.
That's a football guy.
That's a football guy.
Sounds like it to me, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, let's see here. I kind of look at it and I go, Steve Underwood, football guy. Like, yeah. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And it's really, to me, I think he was the team president for the longest time too, right? I mean, like, he's been in that position he was in that position a long time. So that's just kind of how I look at it. Well, let's talk the new GM candidates, because I do want to get to the quarterback situation here shortly, because Tennessee Titans are in the search of a new GM, new quarterback, new identity, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it and I think, look at it this way. Just because John Eric Sullivan doesn't mean that it's a bad hire.
Yeah.
John Eric Sullivan, football guy. Heck, he's been with the Packers longer than Chad Brinker was.
Man.
Think about that. He's been with the Packers since 2003. Chad Brinker started there in 2009, and he got his Northwestern degree paid for. So let's gotta be careful. Okay. I try not to derail myself, but think about this. When's the last time that we heard an employee go to a team and convince them to pay for a master's degree, to go to school, to take a job?
I had never heard of it until you told me.
And maybe it's out there,
but
that's what it is. And then you think about just, your snake emojis that are in the chat. It just, he's got the gift of gab for some.
Well, he's because like Ashley Schaefer from Eastbound and Down.
So go do this. We've talked about the OTP podcast that he was on.
Yeah.
So recently I was coming up with this huge long article that I decided not to do.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. But it was just collecting a bunch of quotes, right? And I was listening to the OTP podcast, and I go over to find another Chad Brinker interview that was on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And it was almost the same exact answers verbatim. This dude is a buttoned-up BSer.
Okay.
And I can smell him from a mile away. I'm not saying
Okay.
that what he's saying isn't true or doesn't believe. You know what I'm saying? He is a salesperson.
Yeah.
You can be a salesperson and still say that car is red, and it's red.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure.
But he uses all the terms, all the buzzwords, all the terms. And so it just makes me know that dude can sell. Dude sold and got a master's degree off of the Packers, which we haven't seen anybody else do, and got promoted enough over a guy that's been there since 2003 that he's about to hire to be his GM, by the way.
It just dawned on me, Zach.
So just think about that.
It just dawned on me. I don't know if I can. Okay, no, I'm going to say it. He's using the NFL to fund his algorithm AI research.
Who's saying that you're not right?
Or he's actually Schaefer BMW.
Maybe so. But it's just sitting here talking about, this guy that's been working since 2003 as a scout and went all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chad, has these big jumps in title and then gets a master's degree paper. I'm just like, this dude, he knows how to play the game.
Yeah.
And maybe that turns into success for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
I am willing to say that, hey, the process was dysfunctional.
Yeah.
It was a mess. It's been, I really put a lot of the blame on Amy Armstrong. And it's been a big disaster. It's erratic. It's chaotic.
I think
but it still could work.
Yeah, the fucked up thing that I keep coming back to is how much you and I specifically, I remember on our drive back from Mobile, Alabama, last year's Senior Bowl, we were talking about how much we liked this guy.
Yeah, we got sold.
He got sold us. He tricked us.
He tricked us.
That's what it is here.
My dad, Lyons Ford, who's also taking us down to the Senior Bowl.
King.
He's worked in the sales business all of his life. I've worked in the sales business. Sometimes when you're even the best salespeople can get sold, and that's fine. Again, this may all actually end up well. This may actually work.
That's the thing, and all this talking we're doing some yapping these last 2 weeks is just going to be, we're going to get cold taked for it.
I love that Team Ramrod, who has watched us, by the way. This has been no different than what we have been my entire podcast existence.
Yeah.
This QAnon level analysis from local Titans media these days.
Yeah.
I'm just using their words. Now, look, a lot of people like to be we have seen it in this fan base and every fan base. We've seen it in all walks of life over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
People love to put their hands in the sand, heads in the sand like they're ostriches. They don't want to deal with some harsh truths, or they don't want to look at that, hey, things may not be on the up and up. This is the NFL, and I said it to Blaine today, and he agreed. The NFL hasn't been on the up and up since it became the NFL. Yeah. There is nothing that is sweet and innocent about this business.
No.
And it's not just the Tennessee Titans, but if you look at their words and you look at how the progression has moved and how everything has moved for people in the NFL and all that kind of stuff, it's just all look at it. Just take a step back and look at it. It's kind of like right now, you guys are the detective in Usual Suspects. The board and the information's behind us. And what you're going to realize is that Brinker we're going to come to find out something later on down the road, and Verbal Kent is going to turn into the big bad guy. Kevin Spacey's going to start walking without a limp.
I just saw Jackson take off running.
He's probably going to go pee or poop or something.
Is he about to pull the plug on the show? Did he get the phone call?
He usually sends me a text saying, "Hey, don't end the show. I got to go pee or I got to go poop." Like, dude, I see you. You don't text me all that.
Man, doxing Jackson for his bathroom habits on tonight's show.
Yeah. And listen, he goes, I agree that ownership is erratic, and I think it's as simple as that. Yeah, ownership could be erratic, but all this other stuff is too. This whole thing is erratic. It's chaotic. But again, sometimes out of the chaos, things rise up, right? Things turn out good.
The phoenix rises from the ashes.
Can Amy Adams Strunk be patient?
I hope so.
Will Chad Brinker and new GM be patient with Brian Callahan.
I hope so.
That last one's likely not so.
I know.
It would be a miracle season, and I hope that it happens for Brian Callahan, but also for Sandy, that we don't have to go through another season like this one.
Well, I mean, it's really been the last 2 seasons have been pretty rough, because that 2023 season, was about halfway through, we started hearing the rumblings that things are pretty dysfunctional, and then the losing really started. Like 2022 ended on a pretty bad note with the loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But 2023, that first game against the Saints was like, oh man, it's over. The window is shut. And then the losing, the dysfunction, all that started there. So we've been dealing with this for 2 seasons now, really.
Would you like to take a quick side trip, a victory lap? Real quick, I'm going to read something to you, and this is going to allow us to do a victory lap. This also says a lot about John Eric Sullivan, who may have drafted this guy. Lucas Van Ness recorded a pass rush win rate of 0% on true pass sets this season. Only 4 players out of 118 to do so. Woo, buddy.
Man.
0% on true pass sets.
Our boy JT, my co-host on the Hot Read podcast, is in shambles right now.
So the Packers have recently let go defensive line coach Jason Rebrovich. Yeah.
I don't know if...
But we also hated Lucas Van Ness.
I don't know if you knew this at the time or not, because I caught a little bit of flack from subscribers that actually read the big board and were like, the fuck are you talking about, Stoney? I had Van Ness somewhere in the 70s ranked in that draft class. And people were like, what are you talking about? And then he gets picked in the first round and he hasn't done shit.
There you go. Except for when Will Levis gifted him some turnovers in Green Bay.
Yeah, well, that'll Will Levis will do it for you.
But I just figured you'd want to take a little bit of victory lap. We were anti-LVN people.
I will happily take that one.
Okay. So John Eric Sullivan has not been announced. Probably going to be announced tomorrow. He's going to be the guy.
You think, there's no shot? There's no shot for my boy Spytek.
Our boy Spytek. Our guy, our football guy.
I want some different vision in the building. Let's not I don't want to just build Green Bay South, you know?
Yeah, I would have. I mean, I don't think that Green Bay South's the worst thing you could be in the NFL.
No, it's better than Nashville.
Whatever they've been.
Whatever this is, yeah.
But I'm with you. I'd much rather have John Spytek a different. I just think the Tom Brady ties are too strong.
But how close were they at Michigan, though? Do we know that?
Pretty close, according to that podcast.
Pretty close?
Yeah.
Man. I know he played a significant role in getting Brady there for their run.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like Spytek, though.
He's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and top tier's right. It would be a shock if it wasn't Sullivan. And it also would be a really good sign if it wasn't Sullivan. That would be tremendous.
Yeah.
But again, I don't necessarily think that John Eric Sullivan is a trash candidate. In fact, all 6 candidates, you're parsing hairs.
It's a difficult situation to screw up.
Yeah, I think that if you are one of the people that were really harped on press conferences, probably don't want Terrence Gray.
Yeah,
he's a little bit of a shy guy. He's
a grinder.
He's a grinder. He's well spoken. He's articulate. He's clear, concise. But he just doesn't have that personality, right?
Yeah.
You know,
or at least that he's willing to show in a press conference.
But then I look at, everything that the Bills have done. Man, you could do a lot worse than the Bill.
Yeah, man.
Maybe he can be an assistant GM because he's just a player personnel guy right now.
Yeah.
So we got to remember this. There may be more Green Bay people coming, but there's also an opportunity for them to take a senior director of personnel or vice president of player personnel and bring them over as assistant GM because guess what? Anthony Robinson is not assistant GM.
That's true.
Currently.
That's true.
So should just, I want to at least look at who that could be out of the possible 6 that would exclude Ian Cunningham and that would exclude Eric Dodds. Or Ed Dodds. But Terrence Gray could come be assistant GM. That's a promotion. So that really is all that. That's really the only guy.
I want Terrence Gray in the building.
Yeah.
And if you could, you have Brinker's experience with the Packers, Spytek's experience with the Bucks, and Gray's experience with the Bills. I think those are three fine organizations in recent years to pull from, to draw from that well of information, the processes, all that, and form the Tennessee way. That's just wishful
Anthony
thinking.
Robinson is gone. That's why I'm saying Section 240. That's why I'm saying that one of these guys could be assistant
fill that
GM.
role.
But it's really just Terrence Gray. Terrence Gray's the only guy that can get promotion. I will say this. I do think Reggie McKenzie's going to be on the staff somewhere.
Really?
He's only a senior personnel executive for the Miami Dolphins, so you can give him whatever, fake title you want to give him to throw him over here. But I kind of felt like it makes sense to have Reggie McKenzie's experience also on board this whole staff, and you could find a place for him where he could just kind of like have an office and, drink some coffee, throw out his words of wisdom and experience and stories like that.
That sounds like a nice gig.
It is a nice gig.
Yeah.
I think we like John Spytek the most because he's the most that kind of like we resemble, I think. Like
he's one of us.
We get him.
Yeah.
We understand him.
We'd have him on the couch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He could definitely be on the couch.
We could just go for hours.
It would go for hours. Oh, it'd be some great content with John Spytek.
Oh, boy, we're teetering a line here.
Yeah. John Eric Sullivan is, I don't like having a firsty. Like, choose John or choose Eric. At this point, you're old enough to have chosen a first name.
Yeah.
And the hyphen is just terrible because his dad's named Jerry. So there is no standard to have a hyphenated
Jerry
name.
Is kind of like a combination. Maybe Jerry is short for John Eric.
I don't think so.
You could just take the J and then the Airy.
Yeah.
Jerry, that's what it is. So maybe he's John Eric Sullivan II. What I was going to ask,
technically you could hire one of the other guys and hire John Eric Sullivan as assistant GM, but that would probably create a lot of controversy.
Weird. Yeah. You're from the South, right?
Yes.
You don't have some like random cousin somewhere named John Eric?
No. We have my cousins all have pretty normal names.
Do they?
Yeah.
So
I would say that the most weird name, I guess, would be Dakota. But that's about it, and I wouldn't really consider that weird. I will say that Dad has cousins that are like second or third cousins or something that I've never met them, but they're named America. There's Creed, there's Paul Eddie, and there's Fordai.
Wait, Paul Eddie, like two names?
I don't know. I've never met him.
Eddie.
I don't know. I've never seen it written down besides just in my head.
We don't even know if John Eric Sullivan's Southern. He might not be. This might not be a Southern thing at all.
Well, let's find out.
That's
because what we could do? We can go to Wikipedia and we can find out.
That's the first answer, the first question at the press conference. Why you got two first names? Why
can't you just choose one? I mean, that's really the big thing is why can't he just choose one? Okay, we got off on names for whatever reason, but I can't really remember.
It's my fault. I'm sorry. I mean, that just feels like a pretty
and he
standard
buttons
here.
his polos all the way up to the top. And someone said, well, that's because, he's all buff and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm not cool with that. I mean, you can take one look at me and figure out I'm probably not cool with. I'm not a top button kind of guy.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to look. I don't know. It looks like he's like he's a Virginia guy. So
it's close enough. I drive through Virginia quite a bit.
Hey, Jordan Pace, I think, gets it right. If you have two first names, you don't have one.
I like that.
I mean, Brooks is like blame his mom. The man is innocent. I mean, I get what you're saying, Brooks, but at the end of the day, at some point, you can choose to go with just John or Eric.
Yeah.
Like when someone says, okay, when your teacher says, John Eric Sullivan, are you here? And you're like, yeah, but I prefer to go by Eric. Mm-hmm. And then you take that into your professional world.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Zachary, but I go by Zach.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just, just shorten the name. It's the same principle.
I'm going to start going by Stony Lance Keeley.
Yeah?
It's my middle
Stony
name.
Lance?
Just put a hyphen between it, right? You can just do that.
What about just Slants?
Slants.
Slants.
I like that. I like that.
We're going to call you Slants. Yeah. All right. Stoney.
So we just flamed this guy for his name for no reason.
Well, that's
so.
all right. It's not like I'm getting a press pass anytime soon. I've resigned to the fact that they probably anytime that email gets sent, it's just going to go straight to junk mail. They probably got it automated and stuff.
They've got your face on a poster in the office.
He said people call him Sully, so now we're going to have Sully and Callie. Ugh,
Sully and Callie.
I cringe every time an adult in the media calls him Callie.
I do too.
I cringe.
Man.
It's just so cringy.
I can't share this story on the air.
But all the players, some of the players at Cincinnati called him BC, and I like BC way
BC
better.
works, yeah. I like Big Coach, and every time I say Big Coach, I'm like, oh, no, wait, that's Bill.
Yeah, it's a Bill.
Big Coach.
It's Bill. Is Jackson in there now?
Jackson's in there, yeah.
Would that be – see, calling Sullivan Sully and Callahan Callie is like calling Jackson Jackie.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make I'm just not in on it.
This isn't Monsters, Inc., boys.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's talk these quarterbacks.
Which ones?
Okay, the draft. Let's get into some draft philosophy.
Okay, I like this. Now we're talking.
Okay. First, before we get to draft philosophy, I think that there is a great tweet out by Sam Phelan right now from his A to Z morning show where he's talking about Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Great content inside the tweet. The tweet itself I have a problem with.
Why?
He calls it an elevator pitch, and it's a over 3 minute fucking video clip. What elevator are you riding? Not even the ones in Dubai. I watched Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Those elevators go pretty quick. You are not on a over 3 minute elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is trying to sell something in 60 seconds.
Yeah, I thought it was 30.
And he's on island time still.
That's what I was about to say. What kind of busted ass elevators they got on Survivor?
Yeah.
It's taking 3 minutes to get from A to B.
Well, if you saw them all looking for immunity idol, it takes a while for them.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But it was a really good piece, and I think it echoes a lot of our stuff. There's some interesting nuggets that have been dropping here and there throughout the media. I think Cam Ward is actually outside of what that douche Benjamin Albright said.
Whew.
I think Cam Ward is high and has the feeling inside the building. They have high opinions of Cam Ward. So I want to start with this question first, and this will really get the chat going.
Okay.
Because I believe, and I posed this in our group chat, and I was surprised that I was alone on an island.
Oh, you're gonna make me. I was keeping this to myself. I don't want people.
Well,
to
you
know
don't have
this
to.
about me.
You don't have to go further, but like,
Okay.
I think that Cam Ward has a much higher floor than Will Levis did as a prospect.
Okay.
And that does not mean anything about what I think about Cam Ward as the prospect. I'm just saying I know I hated Will Levis, and there wasn't any real redeeming quality other than big arm.
Yeah.
And I look at
Traits.
Cam Ward, and I go, I think he has a higher floor than Will Levis. Now, listen, I thought Will Levis had the worst floor in that draft out of the top prospects. The worst floor.
Mm-hmm.
Even lower than Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
But I think Cam Ward has kind of got that Anthony Richardson floor, which is still as good, but much higher than Will Levis, if that makes sense.
I am scared to death of him, and my initial response to your question, which I will not repeat because I don't want to get cold taked in a year.
Yeah,
but
I don't want you to say that. Let's save it for later on in the year.
I'll save it for once my tape study's done.
Yeah,
because I still want to watch a few more games on.
And by the way, I'm not Ward Hive at all. By the way,
yeah, no.
There's a lot of people like Ward Hive. Yes, let's go. And I'm like, no, that's
Ward.
Not me. Ward, wrong guy.
Absolutely terrifies me.
Mm-hmm.
I said I don't think the Will Levis experience would be too different from the Cam Ward experience, and people automatically took that and was like, oh, he's comparing Cam Ward to Will Levis, and it's not. Where I'm at right now, I think, and I've shared this with you, I don't think I've said it on the airwaves anywhere, Cam Ward kind of reminds me of Pat White, the West Virginia quarterback. Very prolific, very exciting player in college, and never really put it together in the pros. He terrifies me because of the tendencies the turnover-worthy plays, the willingness to just throw off of his back foot, across his body, with no real regard to the coverage. Like, it didn't matter what fucking coverage was going on downfield. He was throwing that ball. And I think that is the problem that you had with Will Levis was just like, and the turnovers. We got to stop the turnovers. That's where I draw the parallel. But the more I thought about it, I've come around to your initial sentiment that as a prospect and as a prospect alone, without projecting, but just like what Cam Ward is after his final season in college compared to what Will Levis was his final season.
I don't think there's any question, in my opinion.
I don't still think that. I think there are two things that Cam Ward has going for him that clearly distinguish him from Will Levis. One, it's a feel for the game. One thing I've always been hypercritical of, it's in my scouting report that I wrote 2 years ago for Will Levis, is that he always kind of feels like he's a half second behind everything else that's happening on the field. And it has not changed. And it has not changed. You don't get that sense with Ward. So while he's reckless with the ball, he still has a natural feel for navigating pressure in the pocket. Now, would I like to see him throw some of those balls away a little more instead of just heaving them into traffic? Yes. But I think that is a box that you check in favor of Ward over Levis. And then two, Will Levis wasn't really that productive in college.
He was terrible in college.
And Cam Ward was a Heisman finalist. Mm-hmm. So those two things, I think, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, he absolutely has a higher floor than Will Levis.
I will also add in on that is his ability to play out of structure. Now, that ability to play out of structure can also be a con, but Will Levis couldn't play out of structure. Yeah. Out of structure, he's like fucking the Tasmanian devil out there.
Yeah.
Not having sex with it, he is the Tasmanian devil. But, like, that's what he was like out there. And with Cam Ward, it's like, it's not Lamar Jackson-esque, but it is an ability that very few quarterbacks do have. And I think that also automatically raises the floor. Like the off-platform throws, okay, we've seen Will Levis do those, and we've seen him do them in college too. So you can't really give that to Cam Ward.
Yeah.
But the the out-of-structure stuff, I think, is just so much better, and it's on a different level than Will Levis. And I do agree with you for everything else that you would have it raise the floor. So I would also raise it the floor there. And the experience, right? We're talking about 4 or 5 years of and a better completion percentage, I believe, as well. Mm-hmm. It has a much higher touchdown to interception ratio. So to me, the floor is just much higher. But that does not mean he's still my quarterback too. But to me, I think right now I would go Shedeur Sanders at 1, skip the rest of them, and maybe take a flyer on Colin McCord if I can't get Shedeur for whatever reason. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of how I am.
That's where I'm at. And I'm kind of surprised, honestly, to hear that some of the interest in Ward that has been reported is somewhat substantiated.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't seem like the type of quarterback that would – it's not that he's not a good fit for this system as it was run in 2024. It's that you have your pick of the litter. Why would you pick the guy that's
where you have to adjust more?
Yeah, why would you pick the guy that's not a fit when there is a guy right there in Shedeur Sanders that looks like he could come into the system and play pretty early on?
Yeah, that's how I kind of view it too, is like it's not can't fit, it's worse fit.
Yeah.
And
that's a great way of putting it.
I took it from Easton. I stole it from Easton.
Oh, shout out Easton.
Yeah, I think he typed that while he was wearing his socks and boots in the sauna, which is so weird to me. So weird. And he also cannot ride a bike, so I just want to throw that out there. Any chance to get.
This is like the one time a week that I wear shoes, so I can't speak on footwear.
Well, I mean, when we're down in Mobile, I'll wear tennis shoes because those won't kill my calves. But once we get back to the thing, I put on. Get back to the Airbnb before we go out. I'm barefoot like that.
Yeah, I'm a barefoot soul.
All right, so that's kind of where I'm at with the whole Cam Ward versus Shedeur versus other quarterbacks. Is like I believe so much in Shedeur Sanders over Cam Ward that it's almost like I would just rather them skip Cam Ward if for whatever reason they can't.
Yeah.
They're not sold on Shedeur Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's unfair to Cam Ward. And maybe I'll change my mind when I dive into some more tape. But from what I saw live in game, because that's really what I'm basing it off of, not all 22, what I saw live in game, is like looking at Cam Ward, I'm just like, this dude just runs into pressure or runs into this. He hates structure. It's like he's allergic to it. Not that he can't play in it or not that he didn't play at times, but there's a lot of times where he could have just taken an easy pass and he decided, no, I got to run up and jump and do a jump pass for whatever freaking reason.
Cam Ward feels like this year's traitsy prospect that we've talked about before, and this might change the conversation a little bit, so keep me in bounds if you need to. But
we're about to switch to comparing other quarterback classes.
Okay, the conversation we've had about how Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have like ruined scouting for the last several years because now people seem to be looking for those traitsy guys that they can develop, but maybe they're not looking at the right traits that are actually indicative of development. Like, can you coach a guy? Does a guy have a good feel, that innate sort of sense of timing that NFL offenses require? And now everybody's looking for the shiny, prolific electric toy, and instead of just taking the solid quarterback. And so going into this class, it kind of feels like Ward is the opportunity, at least in my opinion, to say, all right, enough of that. Let's just take the guy that we think will be the better quarterback and stop banking on taking these traitsy guys with astronomical roofs, right? Like, I'm not denying that Cam Ward's talent in a perfect world where you could theoretically rein in his recklessness and some of the deficiencies in his game and make him the perfect prospect, he'd be like the greatest quarterback in the league. I'm not denying that he has that sort of ceiling, but if you're talking about the Titans specifically in a position where they're in a hole that they have to dig out of, take the safer quarterback. Take the guy that fits what you're already doing, what you've already had your offensive guys install and run for an entire season, plug and play, and stop rolling the dice on these guys just because Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen panned out in 2017, 2018.
Okay, so let me pull up something real quick because we got an interesting question here. Okay, so I just want to run through your quarterback rankings from last year.
My quarterback rankings from last year.
From last year. Caleb Williams, number 1.
I hate that.
Drake May, number 2.
I hate that too, by the way.
Jaden Daniels, number 3. Then J.J. McCarthy. Then you went Bo Nix, and he was the next one, but 27th overall.
Yeah.
And then
he's a first rounder.
You had Michael Penix, 38. Because we have a question, and this is kind of like where we're going to be going. And where we're going to go is not to bash this question from Zeeding.
Okay.
But it is a launching point for a larger discussion. And this was the perfect question to ask. But where would Shedeur and Ward rank with last year's quarterback class? So you had Michael Penix dead last and Bo Nix.
Who was after Michael Penix on my list?
Oh, my God.
Was it Michael Pratt, maybe?
Probably. I've just freaking closed out of it.
Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about it. I was just trying to get like a frame of reference if there was anybody after Penix that I would take, like where they would fit into this class, because I don't know.
But talk about that.
Talk about what?
Well, talk about where you would put these guys while I wait.
They would be 7th and 8th at least.
Okay.
And
so you had Spencer Rattler.
Okay, so I would still take both of these guys over Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
So
you would have them. You would have them below Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix.
I would. Yeah.
Okay. So,
but I was also higher on Bo Nix and Michael Penix than most people were.
So this is where I want to take it to, is that I don't think that's the correct way to look at it. Not your assessment. Let me start there. And not Zeeding's question. What I'm saying is that I think comparing this draft class to last year's draft class in terms of talent
Yeah.
is unfair.
Yeah, for sure.
Last year was an anomaly. When have we seen roughly likely 6 quarterbacks that all hit in the first round? Usually it's just 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Because right now you're seeing that it's C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young still has not gotten to that first overall pick level,
Yeah.
but at least he's looking good. Usually it's just 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we cannot use last year's quarterback class as a barometer for this year. This is its own quarterback class with its own unique set of needs. And I don't think that is very fair to the assessment. And I think that's where a lot of these narratives are coming from. Because, like, here's what Dane Brugler said in his mock draft 2.0. He said, this class isn't as strong as last year's quarterback class. Justin Mello shares that in our group chat and says, Dane Brugler said this quarterback class sucks. No. What most people have said is that this quarterback class is not as good as last year's quarterback class, which is a total anomaly, a unicorn draft class. In fact, the whole first round is likely going to look like a unicorn draft class.
Yeah, last year's draft, I think, as a whole is going to look pretty good here in a few years. But also, this does kind of feel like that draft class that happens like once every, 10 years, where you just get like some new blood across the board, hit after hit after hit. Like, this is kind of reshaping the NFL in a way. Like, it feels like this is the class where the next generation of star quarterbacks are going to come from. And that is,
and by the way,
rare.
Just real quick, Zedine saying, I think Bo Nix NFL tape is swaying your rankings. This is from his 2024 big board before the draft started.
Last April.
So he had him that high. He had him a first-round grade on him. And if you listen to the Football and Other Efforts, you and Mike both were actually all over that Bo Nix train.
And they reamed me for it. The people reamed me for it. And I even said at one point, like, the Titans should look at Bo Nix. And then that was too much. That was too far.
You went too overboard.
I had to back off of that one.
So, and this goes to the next question. LT3 is right. This is how I would frame it. Is Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or whatever quarterback they have a conviction on better than Will Levis? Because that's what you're really comparing to. You need to compare them to the quarterbacks you have now and these quarterbacks together.
Mm-hmm.
I think this whole narrative around this quarterback class is kind of lazy in the sense of everybody wants it to be that last year's draft class, and not everybody has been able to insulate their draft, I guess you would say their draft analysis to just this draft class.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of wanted to take this, was talking about, to me, and listen, most people did not have a first-round grade, but you did.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking for those that may be confusing what I'm asking what you would have them rank on your big board where you had Bo Nix as a first-round grade. So, on top of that, I look at it like this. That also does not mean they're not good NFL talents. They're not good NFL. Mm-hmm. They're not good prospects. Mm-hmm. It just means they're not as good as a freaking insane quarterback class that will never happen again. I don't even know if next year's quarterback class will be that good.
So if you think about it, if J.J. McCarthy hits in Minnesota, and that is...
And Mike Vrabel doesn't ruin Drake May.
Yes. That's a hit rate, 6 of 6. How often... I don't know that I've ever seen that. Like, I go back...
I'm even trying to think of other positions that would have a 6 of 6 in the same draft, in the same round.
The only draft class that comes to mind right away is the 04 class with Eli, Rivers, and Roethlisberger.
That's 3, though.
But that's 3. So that's like...
That's an insane, unattainable hit rate. It's like trying to find Josh Allen.
And ultimately, what I think you're getting at here is, like, this is a pretty unprecedented quarterback class that we're talking about. We probably shouldn't hold this year's class to that standard.
Yes.
Because I think you could have a really interesting discussion. Okay, well, where would you rank Shedeur and Cam among the 2023 quarterback class?
Right.
And that kind of paints them in a little more favorable light.
Yeah. For sure, because I would probably have realistically said I would have probably still had foolishly had Anthony Richardson number 2, Bryce Young number 1 still.
Me too.
I probably would have put Shadur Sanders right there with C.J. Ward
I will
or C.J. Stroud.
Full transparency, if I'm speaking what I know was in my heart at the time, I would have had Shadur ahead of C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I probably would have too. And then
Which
I
still would have been top 10 in
Yeah.
that class.
So, you kind of look at it as like you can do that all day long. But this draft class, to me, if you're talking about the top prospects, comparing it to 2024 isn't fair. 2022 is definitely not fair. These guys are all better than that draft class of Sam Howell, all of them. And I love Sam Howell.
Yeah.
These two are better than all those guys put together.
Yeah.
Not even close. And that still had a quarterback go in the first round. I think that these guys are more in line with those old school, not really old school, but those draft classes that are about 10 years old now, pretty much. 2015 and 2016, where it's clearly two top guys with warts.
Yeah.
All four of those guys, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota,
Jared Goff,
and Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz, yeah.
None of those guys were considered generational. None of those guys were considered fantastic or elite. They were considered the best of that year.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this draft class is.
It feels like that's how scouting used to be before the Mahomes and the Josh Allens.
Right.
People started rolling the dice on these guys.
And listen, I'm not saying that they can't roll the dice on someone. Obviously, please do not roll the dice on Jackson Dart at 1.1 or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I look at it and I go, it's unfair to this draft class we got to get out. This is where I think Twitter has done a lot of harm regardless. But like draft Twitter and social media culture infiltrating draft analysis is starting to hinder the product.
Yeah.
So because you normally wouldn't never hear of comparisons of draft classes except for, next year's offensive tackle class is deep or something like that. You never really, when Jared Goff and Carson Wentz came out, you never really heard a lot of, these guys aren't as good as Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. You were here getting the analysis on those players. Now it's like, because we're in such a comparison culture, we have to compare everything. And we're so driven by recency bias, we can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, there's not a lot of space for context and nuance on Twitter in those conversations. And there's also a lot of screenshot scouting.
Yeah.
People posting like a single clip of a player being like, "Oh, this is garbage," and this guy sucks. He's off my board, kind of deal, from random Twitter user at such and such in a string of numbers. So it's frustrating to deal with.
Well, and there's all these people that think they are scouts.
Yeah.
That can be scouts and should have been hired. And they don't have any accountability for their bad takes.
Yeah.
Look at this Joe A _ NFL loser.
We're back on him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the worst account. There's a lot of bad accounts.
I'm convinced it's a bit. I'm convinced.
You're convinced it's a bit?
It's got to be.
But that's a lot of work for a bit. All those spreadsheets he makes and all this stuff that he has to do, that's a lot for a bit.
Yeah. I don't know.
If it is a bit, I have way more respect for him.
If it is a bit, okay, it's kind of cool.
But, when that guy, Eddie goes, you could just say that Joe guy. We're 30 seconds ahead of you guys. But, I look at it and I go, that guy in particular, he had all the Titans fans this guy said that Will Levis's big-time throw rate and accuracy rate, and he had Canadian Titan and Joseph Salov and all these guys sharing it as evidence that Will Levis is some great hidden gem and that he's going to be awesome and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, why are you guys listening to this guy? Just because he has a fancy graph? Where's the proof? Yeah. And then now we're seeing that he gets cold-taked almost every day right now. That's who you guys threw in your hat with just on a whim just because he said something nice about your quarterback.
Yeah. It happens to me sometimes where, I'll post a clip and I'll just be like, I'll say something stupid just being funny because I like to put the clips out there and just kind of let them sit. Yeah. I'm not trying to tell people what to think about a prospect necessarily. I want to tell them what I like about a prospect and just have some fun with it. And I'll post like a ridiculous play, and it never fails. I'll get it every once in a while. I'm not inundated with it, but like you get somebody in the comments like, well, actually the tackle was supposed to take this person, and instead he messed up the assignment, and now that's what caused the play. And it's just like, how do you know this? Like, who are you and how do you know this? Unless it's like a coach's burner that's coming correct for me. But it's just, I don't know. We're getting off the rails here about the Twitter culture these days. But it's everything's like microwave, 15-second takes, and it drives me nuts sometimes.
But that's the issue with draft analysis right now, is that draft analysis is very lacking. I think that's why a lot of people love our Senior Bowl coverage, because we don't cupcake.
No, it's
we don't
grind.
tiptoe.
Yeah.
We tell you what we see.
Yeah.
We spend all day out there. Sometimes you get sunburnt. Lotion Boys 2025 is coming
already
back.
ready. Got the sunscreen.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I bring spray for you too. I'll just have to spray you at some point.
Thank you.
I'm gonna set my alarm.
Lotion Boys are back.
Lotion Boys are back, and because we're gonna try and get through this one without you getting sunburned.
I'm not. I'm just gonna take it. That's what I always do.
But yes, you do. And but like we don't sugarcoat it. We give you the analysis because stuff down there is microwave. You'll get a clip of a wide receiver, spin moving some poor defensive back, and everybody thinks he's the next best thing since sliced bread. Mm-hmm. How many times have we seen Mason Kinsey do that in training camp? A lot. So and Kyle Phillips too. And then, not to give, side swipes at my boy Kyle Phillips, but he ain't doing shit right now in the NFL.
No.
But, like, that dude that's how it works, right? Like, those particular drills work in favor of that kind of situation. So we give you the full breadth of information that we have. You make your decisions up from there, right? Like, you just do that. And
I'm going to share what my work has led me to. If I have an opinion, I'm going to tell you why I have that opinion, and you can expect that it's going to be backed by quite a bit of tape study. And I will tell you which games I watched to arrive at that conclusion, and I will pull clips from those games and show you why I think those things. There's a lot of work that goes into arriving at that opinion. And like maybe you can hate on me for having that behind a paywall, but
tough shit.
Don't try and ruffle my feathers.
Team Ramrod, it brings up a great point. And I don't want to diss Daniel Jeremiah or Dane Brugler, but I think they've kind of gotten away from what got them to the point in the first place. But Team Ramrod says, I heard almost nothing about Matthew Golden, and then DJ tweeted about him, and now I'm seeing takes calling him the best receiver left and right.
Yeah.
That is welcome to draft. That is now draft Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying.
But you know what? I'm going to use an example why you can come to us, Team Ramrod. I'm going to look you right in the eyes. If I'm in that camera, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the camera.
You can trust us, because when the world was telling you Jake Haener was the MVP of the Senior Bowl, Zach and I were saying, no, Tyson Bagent has been the best quarterback here this week. And who do you think was right about that, Zach?
We were right.
That's not saying Tyson Bagent's good,
no,
but he's better than Jake Haener.
Yeah. All that to say, and I don't think we're going to have so many more philosophical discussions and all that kind of stuff constantly. I mean, this is our bread and butter. This is our season.
Yeah, I'll be here all night now that we're talking draft.
Now that we're talking draft.
Yeah.
But I look at it and I go, draft Twitter's kind of becoming unbearable. Then you have the people that grade mock drafts. I grade people's mock drafts for fun. I'll have them. I'll have users submit it, and I'll draft them for fun.
Y'all can always send me your mock drafts.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if your draft analysis boils down to like a C+ because they drafted a blah blah blah, that's not real draft analysis. And these ideas that because a quarterback class isn't as outstanding as last year, that you can't draft a quarterback 1 overall.
Mm-hmm.
That's bullshit. You're not being objective. What you have heard is that this quarterback class is not as good as last year. which in your mind means these quarterbacks will automatically suck, which in your mind means I don't need to watch film because someone else told me that.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
It is.
And look, I know we give a lot of grief to a lot of people on this show, and so I do want to highlight some people. Obviously you.
Thank you.
James Foster does a lot of good work.
33rd
Teron
team.
Davenport does some good work.
Mm-hmm.
JT Easton, and I'll even throw out a name of Charles Barnes. I think he does good work when he is scouting, and he is doing his analysis on prospects.
Yeah.
I do think that is some good stuff.
He puts the Google Doc out every spring, and there's so much information in it, and it is clear, evident. You read through that thing, like he's done the work.
And then who else? There was someone else.
Are we just talking locally?
Yeah, I was really just talking locally.
Okay.
And I was trying to. There was someone else. I'll probably remember it as soon as we get off the air. I'll remember who it is. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of local people that you should be listening to when it comes to draft analysis, and there was a lot I wouldn't. Oh, Mike. Well, that's not who I was thinking of. And there's someone else, but Mike Herndon, when he does some draft analysis, I don't know if he still will, with the business booming, but, Mike's a good one as well. But there's some local people I'm probably missing here and there. But you gotta find your film watchers. And I didn't even include myself in there because I don't watch as much as film as most of those people do. I try to, but I don't get to 300 prospects like you do.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I try to watch as much as I can, and then when I find prospects that intrigue me and all this kind of stuff, I'll start getting into it. But really, those are the people that you guys need to be at least paying more attention to, giving more credence to, not this some random Joe A. or Billy B. or anybody like that just comes in and just gives you some half-assed stuff that's really not true.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you also have to be careful with some of the national guys as well, because you don't know. One of the things that we learned partly through the Senior Bowl process is like to discern what's coming from someone who's actually watched the tape, can show you and prove that they've watched the tape, that have done their homework, and people that have just like had an agent like say, hey, this guy's going to be a first rounder, you should be watching him. And then you see those rumors kind of spread like wildfire when the whole thing, like from the source, is not based on actual work. So weeding that kind of stuff out is pretty difficult too these days.
Greg Cosell considered local? I have no clue. I don't know if he.
I love Greg Cosell though.
Yeah, Greg Cosell's good, but I don't know if he lives here. Okay, football and other efforts. Cover 2. We'll be down at the Senior Bowl. Cover 2, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. But when we're down at the Senior Bowl that week, 6 p.m. every day, we'll be live. We'll answer a few questions. We're going to try and be succinct because we got to go to Winsel's. We got oyster bars and
I can't wait.
We got seafood restaurants and beer to drink and football to talk off air. And when we start drinking, you always got to remember stackinginbox.com. If you're a subscriber, you may get a little
drinking with the scouts.
Drinking with the scouts. We record some stuff and we give you some unfiltered takes when we're a little drunk, and that's for subscribers at stackinginbox.com.
Literally at a bar at like 11 o'clock at night, and you just
holding
pull
up
your
a phone
out on the bar.
We got to record this.
And we just start talking about the wide receiver
sometimes we
class.
won't remember what we even talked about the night before, so we got to have it on audio. And we'll probably have some special guests in between there and everything. Also, January 20th, Cover 2 will have a special host.
Is that
Stoney will actually be on the show for the full 2 hours. And guess what we're going to do? Because all these freaking listeners, all they want to do, anytime I bring up the GM, they call in on the radio and they just want to talk the draft. And you know what we're going to fucking do? We're going to talk draft, baby.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Day.
I'm ready.
People can call in with whatever stupid-ass questions they have about Deion Sanders becoming head coach and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just going to talk draft.
Yeah.
Monday, January 20th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. StackingInbox.com is starting up its Senior Bowl preview by position group.
Got 3 of them up there.
Stoney's, which 3 you got?
Did the O-line. That's where I start most of my classes, the O-line and the quarterbacks. I've got the wide receivers. I think it's a really interesting group. I don't know that there's going to be any one like first round superstar out of the group. And then the edge group went up today, and it's a really, really fun, talented, deep group.
Yep. So we got that going. Hot Read podcast is Tuesdays and Fridays.
4 p.m. Central Time.
See, I'm like like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursdays. That's that's a hard one to get. So Hot Read podcast as well. SoBrosNetwork.com as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. This has been Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.